Good morning. Welcome to Üsküdar University TV. My name is Murat Otoglu. I am a lecturer at Psychology Department of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. And today we will be talking about attention in psychological sciences. Along with attention, there are a number of cognitive components that we study in psychological sciences, such as memory, decision-making, problem-solving, emotion regulations, perception, and many other. And these components also have subdivisions. So we are talking about a vast amount of literature here. And it's like an ocean of literature, and the ocean is deep and vast at the same time. So therefore I decided that instead of talking about cognition in general, maybe considering these components one by one will be more helpful and useful for everybody. And aside from it, attention is something that I am interested in, and I have been into a number of studies of attention. So therefore I believe starting with attention is a good point. We will be considering the behavioral and cognitive components of attention. Let's start with the definition. How do we define attention? Behaviorally speaking, in order to pay attention to one object or one stimulus, we have to ignore the distracting stimuli around it. Only those people who can do this in a healthy way can show healthy attention skills. So, for example, we don't do something like this, right? If the person is driving a car, the focus of attention should be on the car, on the road actually, or the relevant stimulus. And in order to pay attention to relevant stimulus, this driver should be able to ignore the irrelevant stimuli. Let's explain this with another example. Right now you are watching me. Your attention is on me. You are paying attention to me by listening and by following me with your eyes. And while you are doing it, probably there are a number of distractors around you, such as the noise coming from outside, or your 5-year-old child horsing around, or maybe your baby is crying. Well, if your baby is crying, probably you should go pay attention to your baby. But aside from it, in order to focus your attention on me, you have to ignore the irrelevant stimulus. Behaviorally speaking, the term is ignoring, rejecting. On the other hand, cognitively speaking, the term is inhibiting, because cognitively speaking, while some neurons on your brain are focusing on the target stimulus, which is me in this case, there are some other neurons focusing on the distracting stimuli. Those other neurons should be inhibited. That way we can pay full attention and healthy attention. What we understand from this, number of things. First of all, attention is not limitless. This is what we understand. There is a certain capacity, there is a certain limit of attention, just like any other cognitive processing. Another good example for this is the illusionist. How the illusionists make their performances. Two fundamental things that illusionists make their performances. Number one, they use our limited attention capacity to trick us, because they know the fact that in order to focus on one thing, we have to distract all the irrelevant stimulus. That way we can focus on one thing. And we can pay only one thing 100% at a time. In order to change the focus of attention, we have to inhibit that and change the focus of attention to something else. So that's number one. They use our limited attention capacity to trick us. And number two is quick hands. Their hands are so quick that we cannot catch them. So these are some proofs that showing our limited attention capacity. Well, now you can ask me, how is this guy, this minibus driver, is paying attention to road? Because his main concern as a driver should be the road, so that he will not cause any accident, right? However, look at how many distractors around him. Taking the money from the customer, counting the money, returning the money back. That's number 3 already, 3 distractors. Smoking a cigarette, drinking a cup of coffee, there are totally, we count 5 distractors. How is he able to do this? Well, I have to say that some of these distractors are relevant for his work. Some of them are not. For example, relevant ones are taking the money, counting the money, and returning the money back. Those are relevant for his work. Irrelevant ones are smoking, drinking. So how is he able to do this? Let's articulate on that. First of all, we have to understand that we are adaptable beings. We learned that from Darwin. Survival of the fittest, remember. And basically what this person is doing is fitting to his environment. Those who can fit to the environment survive. Those who cannot fit or adapt to the environment will not be survived. So whatever he is doing is also can be done by you. All you have to do is to learn the timing. That's important here. Timing procedure. So he knows when to take the money from you. You extend the money to him, he doesn't take right away. He knows the precise time to take the money from you. And then he takes it, he doesn't count right away. He has to wait for the right moment to count it. And then, again, he has to wait for the right moment to return your money back. He is waiting for the right moment to drink the cup of coffee, or right moment for doing whatever he has to do. How is he doing it? Don't think that he is paying attention to multiple things at a time. We cannot do that. We don't have that ability. We cannot pay more than one stimulus simultaneously at one time. So what he is doing is, he is doing the same thing, focusing on one thing while ignoring the others. And he is doing it back to back. So at one time he is focusing on something and ignoring the irrelevant stimulus, and right away he is focusing on something else and ignoring the irrelevant stimuli. And something else, such as paying the money, returning the money back, and at that time he is ignoring the irrelevant stimuli. In other words, he is using or divided attention. That's what we call. At the end of the day, they become very tired. Mental tiredness, because all day is passing like this, focusing on one stimuli, ignoring the other, focusing on one stimuli, ignoring the other, back to back. The switch is occurring maybe every second sometimes. So that's how we are able to multitasking. Multitasking is this. Multitasking is not doing number of things at one time. Multitasking is focusing on one thing and ignoring the others and doing it and right after that focusing on something else and ignoring the others. We are able to do this. Thankfully, this way we can multitask. Alright, how can we improve our attention? Is there a way to improve our attention? Absolutely. However, before this improvement, we have to understand the dynamics of attention. How does attention work? First of all, we started with the limited capacity of the attention. That's number one. Here we will also consider the number of factors that can influence attention. There are some factors in life influence attention positively, and there are factors in life influence attention negatively. We have to understand those factors. And after that we can talk about improvement. We will also talk about the measurement. Can we measure attention? Absolutely. In scientific studies, we do. However, let's start with the dynamics of attention. Factors that influence attention. I will start with the concept of habituation. What is habituation? Habituation occurs when we are subjected to the same stimulus again and again, repeatedly. Eventually we get habituated to that stimulus, and that stimulus cannot affect us anymore. Let's give an example. I am in a room right now. There is a ventilation. It is not happening, there is no noise coming from the ventilation, but let's imagine in your room there is a ventilation and a noise sound coming from it, such as something like this, repeatedly, continuously. At first, when you enter to the room, you will hear that noise, and that noise will bother you. Eventually, when time lapses, you won't be able to hear that noise anymore because you get habituated. Your brain is helping for you for this procedure, and you might understand that habituation is working for us. It is something for us. So because of habituation, you can pay attention to something more important. For example, that noise coming from the vent is not a life-threatening stimulus. Therefore, why am I going to pay attention to that stimulus? Because what we said, remember, there is limited attention capacity. So if I use my limited attention capacity to something like this, something unimportant, what am I going to do for the rest of the day? So habituation is something that works for us. Because of habituation, we can ignore the irrelevant stimulus so that we can pay more attention to some relevant stimulus. And for example, in this cartoon, that's what we depict. This lady is able to read her book in spite of the noise coming from outside. All the yellow spots are the noise coming from the outside. Barking dog, loudly speaking man. Behind you see the noise of the train and the noise of the people coming from the tent. In spite of those noise, this lady is able to focus, concentrate on her book, thanks to habituation. Another concept I would like to mention is the object permanence. Object permanence is introduced to us by Jean Piaget, and what it basically says is that awareness of the stimuli, even though the stimulus is not on site, even though we cannot see the stimulus. For instance, the classic example for this is get in front of a 5-month-old baby. Show him or her an appealing toy. The baby will follow the toy with her eyes, so showing some interest. However, when you hide the toy behind you or behind some counter, for that baby, the toy disappeared. It is gone, it doesn't exist anymore, because the baby haven't developed object permanence yet. On the other hand, according to the theory, after 6-month-old, object permanence is developed. So get a 7-month-old baby, for example, and show this appealing toy to her. Again, she will follow with her eyes, showing some interest for the toy. And when you hide the toy behind you, she will continue to follow that toy by like looking, kind of trying to reach behind you, looking behind you, and because she has the awareness that the toy doesn't disappear. The toy is still there. That we say the object permanence is developed. So from here, what we understand is that, first of all, before that, how does it develop? We have to understand there are two important cognitive components. One is short-term memory. Absolutely. Short-term memory should be developed. That's number one. So that the baby can remember the existence of the toy. And number two is attention. Even before short-term memory, attention should be present, because without attending to that stimuli, how are you going to memorize it? How are you going to remember it? So what we understand from object permanence is that we are not born with these attentional skills. We are not born with these cognitive skills. The cognitive skills are developed as we interact with the surrounding. So maybe we are born with the tools necessary to develop these cognitive skills. However, those cognitive skills will develop as we interact with the surrounding, as we socialize, in other words. So, in other words, we can say that attention requires socialization. That way, it will develop further. All right, a quick review. Usually I don't use this much writing on my slides. However, this video will be uploaded to YouTube channel. If you watch from there, you can pause and get some more information. But quickly speaking, attention is limited. We have been talking about that since the beginning. We have some relevant proofs about the limitation of attention. Let's be aware of that. We can focus on one thing 100%. One thing at a time for 100%. Secondly, attention is selective. That's what we learn from habituation. We can selectively attend the relevant stimulus. On the other hand, we can unselect some unimportant stimulus. Third, attention is developing unit of the cognitive system. That's what we learn in object permanence. We are not born with these skills, with these abilities. As we interact with the society, those abilities developed, enhanced, and progressed. All right. Sorry. Is there any relationship between eyewitness testimony and attention? That's another important point showing the dynamics of attention, limitation of attention. Let's consider an accident. That's what we see on this. That's what the picture is depicting. There is an intersection, an accident is occurring, and let's say we have some eyewitnesses. Eyewitness number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And after the accident, police will come and ask the eyewitnesses, what happened? Tell me. And what the police reports, that they are getting 4 different scenarios from 4 different eyewitnesses. Why? Because there are a number of individual factors, personal factors, such as, remember, attention is limited, so therefore each of these eyewitnesses are probably paying attention to something else. And when they are paying attention to something, remember, we cannot totally focus at something else. So therefore they are only solely talking about what they have catched on the accident. Second one, attention is selective. So maybe they selectively attend to some part of the stimulus. The stimulus is the accident in this case. Also, can stress and anxiety factor in here? Absolutely. The studies show that stress and anxiety plays a role on attention. And these people, these eyewitnesses, are subjected to stress and anxiety during the time of the accident, right? So that stress and anxiety, we know, elevated level of stress and anxiety reduces the cognitive capacities, such as attention. So therefore, these people probably momentarily experienced attention deficit. Also, weapon focus. That's another term that we consider in criminology, actually, but that is something related to attention also. Imagine a crime scene. You are a witness of a crime scene, or maybe you are a victim of a crime scene, of a crime. And imagine in that crime there is a weapon. Where will your full attention be focused? Absolutely, without mention, it will focus on the weapon, nowhere else. Your survival mechanisms are intact, so you will pay attention to something that threatens you, and your full attention will be on the weapon. So therefore, remember, attention is limited. When we pay full attention to something, we ignore the other things. So after that, the police comes and police asks your testimony. How was the perpetrator look like? And people cannot say anything about the image of the perpetrator. What was he wearing or what was she wearing? Nothing. They don't even remember a color of their shirt or jacket. Was he wearing a watch? Nothing. They don't remember nothing because they didn't attend to those stimuli. What they attend was the weapon, and in fact they can give full detailed information about the weapon on the side that was used. So therefore, weapon focus, stress and anxiety are depriving our attention skills. Can attention be influenced by certain stimuli, such as culture, society? Time plays a role. That's why I use technology. As time progresses, technology changes, and we change our focus of attention to something else progressively. Stimulants, depressants, these are the substance abuse, right? Some of the classes of drugs that people abuse, can that alter attention? Let's look at that. Culture and society, absolutely. People use cognitive mechanisms to interact during socialization process. Yes, let's give an example. You are on a party and you are introduced to someone for the first time. The name is given to you, and then you like this person, so you spend most of the night with this person. You had a good night, you exchange few words, you had a quality of time with this person, and let's say the next day you met with this person on the street. Would you remember the name? I can hear no's. That's what happens usually. We don't remember the names. Even though the name is given to us, when we are introduced to someone for the first time, that information goes out of the window. However, we have a good recollection of the face. We can recognize the face because we attend to the face. We have a certain brain area that is responsible for face recognition. Why? Because that area attends to the face, facial information, facial features. However, we don't have, as far as I know, we don't have any specific brain area responsible for name recognition. In other words, name attention, attending to the names. So, cognitive mechanisms are important in socialization. We use all of them. Not only attention, but all of them. So, culture. We are in culture. You remember we talked about the time. As time lapses, people are changing. So, look at these people. Before, I will say, up to 20 years ago, when people sat on a family table, they would interact to each other. That's what we experienced up until 20 years ago. But if you noticed, technology advanced rapidly in the last 20 years with the advancement of the smartphones, for example, tablets, computers, right? Those things. So, and we became more individualistic. So when we sat on a family table, of course, I am not saying this is happening in every family, of course not, but however, especially the families in the city life changed dramatically. And instead of paying attention, focusing their attention on each other to make interaction, they changed their focus of attention to these devices. And actually, the human interaction, the socialization is reduced. Remember, what did we say for the development of cognitive resources? Socialization. Interaction with the environment is important. So, what this may say, I think you got the answer. And if we continue like this, our cognitive abilities might be reduced. Well, we see the similar things in all aspects of life. Of course, this is an extreme example. I have never seen something like this, but I have seen similar things, and even I do the same thing. When we sit on a table, instead of focusing on each other, instead of communicating, we choose to communicate with this piece of device. I don't know why. It is shaped. Culture is shaped, therefore our focus of attention is shaped. And even children are doing the same thing. As far as I learned, the cell phone age for children is 12. On one hand, it is something good. In time like this, yes, children has to call their parents to report where they are. In that sense, it is good. However, nobody is using for that. That's one thing and finished. Report where you are, and that's it. You don't have to report anything until the next hour. But what will happen within those 1 hour period? All things can happen. Instead of interacting with each other, instead of socializing with each other, they socialize with this piece of device. Okay, substance abuse. So we mentioned about the culture and time, that how culture and time changed our focus of attention. And let's come back to something totally different. Can substance abuse, drug addiction, in other words, here we are talking about illicit drugs that are sold on the street, right? Can they alter their attention? Absolutely, yes. For example, we experience alertness under the influence of stimulants, such as amphetamine. Caffeine is a stimulant too, but we do not consider it as a substance. However, it's a stimulant, I have to say. But we are talking about illicit drugs here. So methamphetamine, amphetamine, these are strong stimulants, and they alter our alertness. How? They increase the efficiency of the nervous system. Nervous system should work at an optimum level. There is an optimum level for the nervous system to work. If the nervous system is working higher than the optimum level, we will experience attention deficit. In other words, we will try to pay attention to multiple things at one time, and it will not occur. So therefore, we will experience attention deficit. On the other hand, we experience decreased alertness under the influence of a depressant, such as alcohol. Alcohol is probably the most abused depressant. What it does is, it doesn't make you depressed. We call it depressant because it reduces the efficiency of the nervous system. So nervous system does not work in the optimum level again. It is working below the optimum level. That is also not good for our cognition, for our neural communication, and also for our attention. So with the depressants, what goes out of the window? The reflexes, for example. So when the person is driving a car, the reflexes will not work in a healthy way. So at the same time, this person won't be able to attend to relevant stimulus, such as the road, such as the signs on the road, right? Such as red light, green light, those things. This person won't be able to attend in a healthy way, so that this person may cause an accident. That's why we say that substances in general can cause altered state of consciousness and influence our attention negatively. Here we talked about two classes of substances. There are a number of different classes of substances that can alter cognition. How can we measure attention? First of all, can we measure it? Yes. One way of doing this is the Stroop Task. For example, let me show you. Let's do this together. Let's focus on this and do it together. Okay, I want you to name the colors. Don't read the words, but name the colors. Blue, yellow, dark blue, red, black, pink, orange, green. All right? Now, another column will come. I want you to name the colors again. All right? Name the colors. Don't read the words, name the colors. Such as red, dark blue, black, yellow, blue. But if you noticed, it was something more difficult than the first one. In the first one, what we see is a congruent trial, meaning the colors and the written words are congruent. Blue, the word blue is written in blue color. The word yellow is written in yellow color. So that's why it is congruent, and doing this task is easy. That's a filtering baseline condition. On the other hand, here incongruent trial is the filtering condition, the difficult task. Your task is to name the colors again, not reading the words. And here is the challenge starts, because your mind is automatically going to read the written word. However, your task is to inhibit that activity and focus on naming the color. That takes longer time. What do you need for that? Attention skills. So those people who have strong attention skills are doing good at this. Especially after some practice, the incongruent and the congruent trials are compatible, matchable. So here we can collect two forms of behavioral data, such as reaction time and accuracy. How long it takes to you to react to incongruent trials or finish the incongruent column compared to congruent column. that is your reaction time. And people eventually who have good attention skills are similar reaction times after some practice. Similar reaction times between incongruent and congruent trials. On the other hand, the accuracy is important. How is important? You can measure the accuracy by counting the number of errors. So for example, instead of saying red for this one, the person may say blue. That's an error. So we count those errors, and eventually those people who have good attention skills will have less number of errors, meaning more accuracy. Those are the two behavioral components. At the same time, while we are doing this, we can collect some cognitive data under some screening procedures, such as fMRI. Let's say, while the person is doing this task, what is happening on the relevant brain structures? That's what we use to do a screening procedure. All right, another one is the Eriksen flanker task that is similar to some games we play actually. If you played, I don't know, but what happens is you have a target that you should focus on. This is your target, and you have the distractors around it. Your task is to focus on the target and eliminate the distractors, ignore the distractors, and if the target is showing arrow looking at the right side, you press on the right arrow. That is your task. This is a congruent trial, kind of easy. The incongruent trial is all around. The target is looking at some point, but the distractors can look anywhere. So you have to able to inhibit the distractors while focusing on the target and do the task. Press on that, and you have to do this as soon as possible. Like those stimuli do not stay there for the all day. Don't stay there. They will stay for about 500 milliseconds. That is about half a second, and you have to respond within that time. So you have to attend and quickly respond. That is how we measure attention. On the other hand, can we improve attention? Absolutely. There are similar games. You can find the applications online, such as migrating animals, lost in the migration. This is something similar to what I showed you in the previous slide. Look, this is the target stimulus, and around them you see the distracting stimuli. So what you will do is focus on the target, avoid the distractor, and respond as soon as possible. That increases our attention skills. On the other hand, how can we improve our attention skills? This is coming from Eriksen, one of the phenomenal theoreticians, in my opinion, in psychology. That he showed us that the development is a lifelong process. It is a lifelong process, and according to him, this is coming directly from him, if you want to have a healthy late adulthood, get some hobbies. Such as hobbies what? Playing card games, right? Interacting with people. So that will, that way you will have intact attention skills, cognitive skills, by interacting with people. But how are you going to gain those hobbies? You cannot gain them in late adulthood. You will gain them as you were young, when you were young. So be a communicative person, right? Communicative person. Be a social person. Interact with the surrounding. Make friends. And get some hobbies. This way, according to Eriksen, and in my opinion, it is important that you will have a better late adulthood with intact cognitive skills and maybe even improved cognitive skills. So here, in this lecture, what I wanted to show you is that attention skills are limited. However, with this, I'm not trying to say that you cannot pass the limits. You can pass the limits. You can I'm not saying that stay with those limitations and don't go out of that limit. Of course, what I am saying is, if we know the limitations, our capacity, only after that we can pass the limits. So in order to progress, enhance our capacities, first of all, we have to know our limitations. That's the concluding statement. Thank you for listening and have a good day.